Hey, sports fans and friends, thanks for tuning in on the Shotgun Sports Network YouTube channel, Facebook, or wherever you get your podcasts. Please smash the like and subscribe buttons and hit the notification bell to be notified whenever we post new content. Also, go check out all of our great shows on the Shotgun Sports Network. Scout and Catherine host the Elks Call, bringing you all the latest from the Edmonton Elks and Edmonton sports scene. Oz and Joe host the Rouge, White, and Blue podcast, talking about the Montreal Alouettes, Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and CFL in general. Clay, Will, and Senior Douglas host the Argos Fancast, where they discuss the Toronto Argos. All of these great CFL shows are all brought to you by Royal Retros. Click the link in the description and use code Stamps Roundup for 10% off Royal Retros. Great retro gear from leagues such as the CFL, USFL, XFL, WHA, NLB, MLB, and more. This is episode number 12 of Stampeders Roundup, and this week I have Alex Dormuth from Piffles Podcast on to talk about the shit show that went down in Saskatchewan over the weekend and more. But first, let's do the Calgary Sports Update, brought to you by Rampage Coffee. Rider Nation drinks green Kool-Aid. Real fans drink Rampage Coffee. Support the pod, support Canadian business, and fuel your inner chaos. Hit the link in the description, use code STAMPS10, and knock 10% off your order, just like a perfectly timed sack. Rampage Coffee, stronger than having 13 men on the field. The Calgary Wranglers announced that David Lifton will join the Wranglers coaching staff as an assistant coach. Lifton spent last season as an assistant coach with the Calgary Hitmen, where he helped guide the team to Game 7 in the second round of the WHL playoffs. Calgary Hitmen head coach Paul McFarland has accepted an assistant coaching position with the Edmonton Oilers, and as mentioned, assistant coach David Lifton has accepted a position with the Calgary Wranglers and will join their staff as an assistant coach. They also announced that assistant coach Ben Wilson will be departing the organization to pursue new opportunities. And Calgary Hitmen alternate captain Ben Kindle has signed a 3-year entry-level contract with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Pittsburgh selected the Hitmen forward with the 11th overall pick in the first round of the 2025 NHL Draft. For the fourth time this season, neither team could come out on top between the Calgary Cavalry Football Club and Vancouver FC. The two ended full time with a 0-0 draw and each scored one penalty kick. The Calgary Cavalry currently sit in fourth place in the Canadian Premier League with 6 wins, 3 losses, and 4 draws. Cavalry's next match is Sunday against the Winnipeg Valor. The Calgary Surge beat the Montreal Alliance 107-91 last Wednesday in front of a Scotiabank Saddledome crowd of almost 7,000. Sean Miller-Moore scored 23 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists. The Surge currently sit in second place in the CEBL with 10 wins and 5 losses. The Surge's next game is tonight at SaskTel Centre in Saskatoon to face the Saskatchewan Rattlers. All right, let's get to the latest Calgary Stampeders news. The Calgary Stampeders brought the Stampede to Mosaic Stadium in Regina in a Saturday afternoon matinee. The game was originally scheduled to be played on Friday night, but poor air quality delayed the game for several hours before it was postponed until Saturday. Vernon Adams Jr. completed 28 of 36 passes for 428 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Friend of the show, Damian Alford, had himself a career game with 6 receptions for 156 yards and 2 touchdowns. Dedrick Mills had 14 carries for 85 yards, and Clarence Hicks had 2 tackles, 2 sacks, and a forced fumble. Stay tuned right here for deeper analysis of the game with Alex Dormuth from the Piffles Podcast. You can also go check out stampeders.com for more reactions, interviews, stats, news, and more. Sports fans and friends on YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to be notified when we go live or post. And like and follow at Stamps Roundup on Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Now let's get to my chat with Alex Dormuth from the Piffles Podcast.
Alex Dormuth from Piffles Podcast is here to chat about the shit show that occurred in Regina over the weekend.
It's putting it mildly.
It began Friday with an air quality delay because of smoke from wildfires, and that was, 6 hours, I think?
Well, the game was supposed to start at 7. They originally delayed it till 7:45, and then they finally called it at 10:45. So it was a 3-hour, 45-minute delay before they called it. And I mean, when you look at the forecast and whatever was coming, like, it should have been called long before.
Yeah. And a lot of people are criticizing the riders and the CFL for how it was handled. What are your thoughts on how the whole thing went down?
Well, we stayed until the very end, until almost 11 o'clock in the stadium. So it was just a few minutes after they finally called it when we left. First off, I don't think anything was the riders' fault. I know they're taking a lot of heat. Craig Reynolds, the president, is taking a lot of heat, undeservedly so. Everything was out of his control. It was a CFL sanctioned game. It was a CFL game. The league was in control of everything. It's their weather policy. It was ultimately their call. So I know it's easiest for the fans to just, get mad at the home team.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're seeing that, and that's not the way it should have been. It was with the league. To me, the big thing was there was a lack of communication inside the stadium. So they sent out social media before the game. The riders posted, the CFL posted that they were going to delay the game for 45 minutes. And at no point in the stadium, remotely close around that time, did they come back and say, you know what, we're just going to hold off. We're just going to hold off. The timer on the big screen just stayed at 30 minutes. So they're like, yeah, they'll get out and warm up when we have an update. And nothing. So we're sitting there. I mean, luckily where I was, a lot of people were in pretty good mood. It was actually a pretty nice night out despite the smoke. So everybody seemed in good spirits, and we were hoping that maybe by 8:30 the game could kick off, and still nothing. And then they finally got the PA announcers to give us an update saying there is no update. We'll know later. So it was everybody looking on their phone trying to find, the policy, and then you're starting to see all these posts come up saying that it would be postponed until, the next game that they play each other in Calgary, and it would be a 2-game mini shootout. So nobody knew what was going on, and to me that was the big issue. Is we only got 2 updates in total throughout the whole thing, and one was at 7:45, and then the other one wasn't until 10 o'clock. So people were just sitting there, and like I said, people around me were doing all right and just hanging out, having a good time. But then I'm sure other places in the stadium, it wasn't going over so well. So frustrating for sure. And I don't blame anybody for being upset, especially the out-of-towners. There was obviously the riders, a lot of season ticket holders, a lot of people coming in for the game. But also there was a handful of Stamps fans there. And from what I understand is Calgary actually had fans on a charter with the team to come to this game.
Oh, okay.
So one of the issues that we kind of heard rumblings about late in the evening there on Friday was that we don't have accommodations for the Calgary Stampeders if they have to postpone this game, because with Country Thunder happening just outside of Regina, all the hotel rooms are pretty much booked up. So the Stamps ended up getting dorm rooms at the U of R. They found any and every hotel room they could possibly find. They were in different hotels. They weren't even close to each other. And that's just the players. Meanwhile, you got, fans with you. Where are they going to stay? So a lot of that kind of stuff, I think, was the holdup. And the reason why they kept trying to delay it, because they wanted to get that game in on Friday. It's in everybody's best interest to get that game in on Friday. But unfortunately, it just didn't happen. So hopefully everybody on Saturday, when the game actually happened, there were still quite a few of the same Stamps fans. So I'm glad they were able to stick around and enjoy what they saw anyway. But it was Hindsight's 2020, but it was very frustrating, and it definitely could have been handled a lot better from the league level. I think from the team's standpoint, both Calgary and Saskatchewan, there's really not much else they could have possibly done.
Yeah, I did hear on the Rod Peterson show this morning that he discussed staying at the U of R and there wasn't hotel rooms available, and I was like, "What the heck?" It didn't dawn on me that Country Thunder was going on, so that makes a lot of sense now. I think the league wasn't really prepared for this either, because has this ever happened before? Like way back in the olden days, I think they postponed a game for fog, but other than that, I don't recall a game ever being postponed.
No, they've had delays before, obviously with thunderstorms and lightning in the area, but I've never seen anything like this. So to actually postpone it for, a full day is pretty crazy actually when you think about it, because it doesn't happen. If Calgary would have had accommodations for, the Friday night, then they probably would have called it a lot sooner. But I think just the scrambling around that is done here by the league and teams to try and figure out exactly what they're going to do, how they're going to get home, when they're going to get home. I think that's kind of what kept pushing it, and why there was no, in stadium announcement as to why there was a delay and when the delay and the lack of communication. That said, they still need to, update everybody that was there.
Yeah, that was the odd part. And good on the Riders. They offered ticket holders a $50 in-store at the Riders store. I think I saw something like that online, right?
Yeah. So season ticket holders, for every ticket you have with your season ticket account, you do get a $50 Riders store voucher. And then for single game ticket holders that only bought tickets for this game, if they weren't able to make it, and same thing with the season ticket holders, you could ask for a refund or a credit onto your account. But also the single game holders were able to get a voucher for a free game later in the season, as long as it's not Labor Day, of course. So even if you just average out the value of that, let's say the average ticket is $50, just to compare it with the Riders Store gift card, they sold 27,000 tickets to that game on Friday. So you do quick math, and that's $1.35 million that the team is basically, they're not losing, but they're not getting the revenue off that now. Yeah. So they are kind of out $1.35 million. I'm sure there's something way deep in the insurance policy where they get it back, but that's a big hit. And honestly, because it was out of their control, they didn't really have to do anything. So the fact that they announced that, the very next morning, on Saturday morning, it shows that they cared right off the bat, that they really genuinely, and Craig Reynolds, you can see in his presser after they canceled or they postponed the game, he was genuinely I don't know if upset's the right word, but you could tell that he wasn't happy with it, but that he really felt for the fans, especially ones that traveled, because you lose the time, you lose the money by coming out and not getting the entertainment value you're expecting. So to give a little token of appreciation it goes a long way. And I've personally been pretty critical of the Rough Rider organization in terms of marketing and what they do or don't do for their fans. They did a very, very good job this time at trying to make something good out of something bad. So again, it was out of their control. So for them to pony up $1.35 million basically that's pretty impressive, and that goes a long way with fans. Yeah.
So then the game gets postponed until the next day, and then the shit show continued for the Riders because
the first play was great.
They didn't even show up, did they?
No, outside of that first play interception, immediately I thought, okay, well, that's the Vernon Adams we're getting today. And once the Riders had their 2 and out and got the field goal, I was like, oh, okay. And then once Vernon Adams started moving the ball, it was like, okay, this is even when the Riders got a fumble recovery off that second drive, but Calgary moved the ball with ease into the Riders zone there, and it just never stopped. So hats off to the Stampeders for two things. Well, one, just with the whole smoke thing and the postponement, like that throws off the the game day clock and the
Oh, yeah.
clock and everything. So that's not easy to do. And especially when you're all roomed in different places, like that's very difficult for a team to do. That's not what they're used to. The Riders, they could go home and sleep in their own beds that night. So that, was no big deal for them. But to come into another undefeated team's barn and knock them silly the same way they did with Winnipeg in the Stampede Bowl, like you got probably arguably the best team in the league in Winnipeg, and you go in, or you have them come to town and you put the boots to them the way that they did, and then you do the same thing on the road to a 4-0 team. They knew exactly what they were going to do in that game, and they did it. And it was frustrating for me as a Rider fan with Corey Mason's defense, because he does have a very soft zone defense, and any competent quarterback is going to pick that apart. And that's exactly what Vernon Adams did. Did the Riders make it easy on them by not getting a lot of pressure, by leaving zones wide open? Sure. But Vernon Adams did a great job. The play calling was great for Calgary. Running the ball, Dedrick Mills had a great game. They just put the boots to the Riders, and it was honestly a 14-point game at the end. Really flattered Saskatchewan. It shouldn't have been that close.
Yeah, I was wondering because I was looking at the stat lines and I'm like, oh, this was a quarterback shootout. 425 yards put up by Harris. Obviously, just not punching it in the red zone. Is that what went on? I unfortunately missed the game because I was out of town. But
yeah, there was a couple times where the Riders were driving, especially in the second half. So to start the second half, the Riders were only down, 14-3, I think. So it was still within grasp. The Riders got a touchdown basically just to start the third quarter, and we thought, okay, well, they're only down a couple points here, 7 points, whatever it was, and okay, this could be a game. And then Damian Alford gets an 81-yard touchdown, days later. That guy's turning into something special. The first overall pick. He's a physical freak. His first touchdown was a beautiful catch. That one, he was wide open, just dusted the DB on a double move. He's going to be something special in this league. So nice to see a big breakout game for him, because we love seeing the Canadian guys step up and have big games. But yeah, the Riders had a couple times where they did drive the field. They were down by 14. Instead of kicking a field goal, they went for it twice and didn't get it. So hindsight, you could look back and say the first time, well, they kick a field goal, they're only down by 11. While the second time they go down, you kick a field goal, and now you're down by 8. You only have one score to go. Changes the complete complexion of the end of the fourth quarter. But their defense wasn't going to stop anything that Calgary was doing anyway. So I think it was the right call for the Riders to try and go for it on third and goal from the 9 or whatever it was a couple times. But it was just poor execution by them and great plays by Calgary. Calgary's defensive line just dominated that entire game. Trevor Harris had no time in the pocket whatsoever, and there was no rhythm from the Riders' offense. And Calgary, just hats off to them. They did a great job of disrupting everything.
Yeah, in the highlight package I saw, I did notice that Harris did not have a lot of time. I'm just looking here to see how many times he was sacked. Only 3 times he was sacked, it looks like.
There was a couple times where he was on his way down and just tossed the ball away. There was a couple times he probably could have been called for grounding. There was, it could have been 6, 7 sacks, honestly.
Yeah, so one thing that surprised me about Harris not being able to get time and Calgary's defense being so strong is they only gave Ouellette the ball 6 times. Why didn't they start pounding the running game?
Great question. I think it was Calgary's defensive line. The O-line wasn't getting any blocking, pass protection, or run blocking for the Riders, which has been their best unit. It has been the O-line despite all their injuries. But losing Trayvon Tate last game against BC before the bye week for the Riders, that might have been the real big one, because now you're starting a Canadian in Zach Fry, who got some meaningful experience last year, but the drop-off clearly was there. Not to try and single him out, because I think all the guys on the offensive line had a bad game, but there was no room whatsoever for AJ to try to run. I think I looked at it one time, he had negative yards after about 4 or 5 carries. Like, it was just, there was nothing there in terms of running space at all. And that was Calgary plugging the holes.
Yeah, and I also noticed Tommy Stevens had the only 2 quarterback sneaks. Is Jake Mayer injured? Why? I thought Jake Mayer would be the backup, or is him and Harris number 1 and 2, and Stevens is the short yardage guy no matter what? Is that how that was working?
Stevens is the short yardage guy. So Mayer is the number 2, and there's a couple times Tommy Stevens probably could have came in, but they elected to keep Harris in there on 3rd and 2 on the 9-yard line. One of the times that they turned it over, Harris ended up trying to run for the first down, didn't get it. And well, if they had Tommy Stevens in, probably would have ran a lot further and faster than Trevor Harris. But yeah.
Let's see, just looking at the other stats here of the game. Alfred had 6 receptions for 156 yards, 2 touchdowns. You take away the 81-yarder and his stats look a little more human. But yeah, Vernon Adams definitely spreading the ball out. I noticed that a lot in the first few games of the season here. He spreads the ball out a lot, and that definitely helps.
Well, I look at Calgary's roster on offense, and outside now that Reggie Begelton's hurt, obviously, there is no true number 1 receiver for them.
Yeah, there is now.
With Damien Alford putting up that game, yeah, absolutely have to keep feeding him the ball. But that's exactly what a good quarterback will do. And Vernon's always been really good at spreading the ball around and using all of his playmakers. So it was, not that anybody on the Stamps receiving group is a slouch or anything, because they have some very good receivers, but none are that, Kenny Lawler, Geno Lewis type guy anymore. Right. So they did a good job of keeping the Riders guessing as to where it was going to go, and they got tons of protection from the O-line. Vernon had a lot of time to throw the ball, and he was able to just pick that defense apart, especially in the middle of that zone defense. So they did a very good job of making it work.
Yeah, and looking on the Riders side of the receiving, Joe Robustelli, is that how you say that?
Yeah,
he had a hell of a game.
Yeah. He was
looking at the top Rider receivers. I've never even heard of these guys. So
yeah, Robustelli, he is getting starts right now just with with Emelis and Keen Schaefer Baker being hurt, and then being forced to flip the ratio because of that and starting 3 American receivers. He's been, the first couple of games kind of an afterthought, kind of that far side receiver that might get 1 or 2 looks a game. And for whatever reason, this was the game that was his breakout. And we've seen him come down with some nice passes before in the preseason, both the last year and this year. He was very, very good. He had a nice deep ball against BC a couple weeks ago from Jake Mayer down the sidelines. And this one, he was the only guy that looked like he cared on the Riders roster the entire game. And 12 catches, over 200 yards, whatever it was. I still think the stats are, I don't know if a stats page is updated, but I remember looking in the stadium, he had 11 for 191 and then had another 22-yarder after that. So if they didn't update
the stat line still says 11 for 191. I'm not sure.
Yeah. He ended up having 12 for, I think it was 213. So I think he had a 22-yarder on the last drive. But yeah, he had one heck of a game. Bright spot for the Riders, but unfortunately for the green and white, that was about it.
Yeah, they didn't have a terrible game on defense. Jameer Thurman, 7 defensive tackles. CJ Rivas did well. He had 6 defensive tackles, an interception, and a fumble recovery. AJ Allen, 4 tackles, 1 interception, and 1 forced fumble. So the defense didn't do terrible.
They gave up a lot of yards. It was a lot of bend but don't break. But this whole defense is relied on getting pressure on the quarterback and forcing turnovers. And if they're not doing both of those things, they're going to give up a lot of yards. And fortunately for the defense, they did only give up 24 points. When you look at the stat line, you see, Vernon Adams throw for 425 yards, only scoring 24 points kind of feels like a disappointment at that point, right? So they made some stops when they had to, but those were unfortunately way too late in the game for the Riders to turn anything around. But for the Riders defense, they got to tighten things up. To me, that's all it is. I'm not terribly worried as a Rider fan about this after one game.
No.
But if it becomes a pattern, if Nathan Rourke comes in and throws for 400 yards against them, I mean, Drew Brown threw for 400 yards against this defense in week 1. So that's 2 out of 5 games they've given up 400 yards passing. And now it's back-to-back games where they're giving up over 100 yards rushing. So the defense is showing some holes, and good teams will definitely take advantage of that.
Yeah, special teams, Paradis made 1 field goal. Brett Lawler, 1 for 3. Tell me about the 2 he missed. Were they simple ones or?
Well, the first one was, when was that? I'd have to go back and look to see when that was, but it was a very makeable kick. It was from mid 40 to 50 yards, something that he should be making. Was wide on that. And the last one was on the very last play of the game, where because the teams only play each other twice this year, you're worried about possible season series and point differential. So that was the field goal there. But with Lothar, if he misses 1, it's in his head. And if he misses 1, he's going to miss another. That's just the way he is. Next game, I'm sure he'll come back and go 5 for 5. That's the way he seems to rebound. But if he misses 1, he's done for the game. And the last one, I think he's just tried to just boot it as hard as he possibly could to get through for 3 points, and then just missed it wide. So another tough game for Lothar, but he's shown that he's been able to bounce back.
I feel a lot of kickers are like that. When they miss 1, it just gets to them, and then they overthink it and overcompensate maybe, and it just turns into a disaster.
Yep, that's Brett Lothar to a T right there.
So BC is the Riders' next opponent. Give me your thoughts heading into that game.
Well, I'm hoping this game against the Stampeders, at least from the effort level, was a one-off, because maybe it was because the game was delayed and their whole weekend was thrown off because of it. I don't know, but they just didn't look like they cared on Saturday afternoon. They can't let that happen again. And with the way that Nathan Rourke was playing against Edmonton on Sunday, he was putting up some big-time stats, putting up 34 points, whatever it was that they got.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I'm worried yet about the Riders, but
No.
the signs are there. Like, this is going to be a different BC team that they played a couple weeks ago with Jeremiah Mazzoli at the helm. Nathan Rourke has now finally getting back into his form, and with the Riders' own defense, Justin McInnes last year put up over 200 yards in a game against them. I wouldn't be surprised if McInnes is the big target for Nathan Rourke and the Lions this week, especially over the middle of the field. But now you look at a guy like Barry Hill, who's starting to come on here now in his career and turn into a very legitimate receiver. BC's got some weapons, and now they all of a sudden have a run game. James Butler had a great game against the Riders a couple of weeks ago, albeit in a losing cause, and had a very, very good game. I think it was the second most carries by a BC Lion running back of all time in a single game, with 30 against Edmonton. So they're finding that balanced offense, and if they can keep doing that, it's going to keep the Riders on their heels, and they're going to need to get some pressure. The Riders defense, it relies on getting to the quarterback, and they're just not getting it consistently enough. I look at a guy like Shane Ray, and it shows in the stat sheet last week that he had a sack, but that was because Vernon Adams basically just fell down. So a guy like that, who's been heavily touted as, this great defensive end, I'm not seeing it from him right now. And they're only playing 3 defensive tackles. So when you're rotating just those 3 guys instead of 4, they wear down pretty fast. And we're seeing that run game now start to get exploited by the Riders, or on the Riders defense.
Yeah, I was going to say definitely not time to worry if you're a Saskatchewan fan until you lose to Edmonton, Toronto, or Ottawa. But then Ottawa was one of the. Oh no, they didn't lose to Ottawa.
No, but they did everything they could to try and lose to them. And
yes, that's right. That's right. So yeah, Once you lose to one of those three teams, then I'd worry.
Yeah, then it's panic time. But no, I think this game against the Stamps here, I mean, you got to give credit where it's due. The Calgary Stampeders, who a lot of people, myself included, thought they'd be at the bottom of the West this year, even with Vernon Adams, they're legit. The quick turnaround that they've had, the work that Vernon Adams is doing, they're scoring a whole bunch of points, and their defense. I know they have so many new starters on that defense, but they're clicking right now, and whatever the defensive coordinator's got going over there, they're buying into it, and they're performing really well. They're giving up the least amount of points in the league. They're first in almost every defensive, like major defensive category in stats. So the Riders got punched in the mouths by a really good team, and kudos to the Stampeders for coming in and doing it. And hopefully for us Rider fans, that's just it's one of those games, and they can come back and have a better showing against BC. But if it becomes a pattern against these, better teams in the league, then might have to start worrying here in Riderville. Yeah,
definitely a wake-up game, I would say. A lot of people discounted the Stampeders and the Ticats, and just for the record, at the beginning of the season, I called Hamilton to be first in the East and Stampeders first in the West. So far, my prediction is coming true.
Well, I know one of our good friends over in Calgary, Ryan Ballantyne, they won't go 18-0 like he predicts every year.
But yeah, I had him on my show as well, and he said 18-0. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, every year. It's going to be the year that it happens. But why would you want to cheer, or why would you want your team to lose, right?
That's what he said. He said, why would you want your team to? I'm like, well, nobody wants their team to lose, but I'm a realist. I know they're going to lose. Give me your thoughts on the season so far in the CFL. Anything surprising you so far?
Trey Ford is the big surprise to me.
Good answer.
And not so much that he's struggling, because watching him, I will say he is the most entertaining player in the CFL. He is a great athlete, and he can make things happen. But when he's not scrambling around and finding a way to, chuck the ball up, chuck and pray, basically, hope that someone comes down with it. I've always found that he can't get to that second and third read. He locks in on that first read, and if it's not there, he has to scramble.
Yeah.
So in terms of being a pocket quarterback, he's not that guy. And I don't know if it's just that's what they're trying to do with him there and limit how much he's running around. But he needs to be able to freelance a little bit more than they're letting him. And I'm surprised more that they haven't gone to Cody Fajardo yet, or at least the timing of it, because this game against BC this past Sunday, Cody Fajardo should have been in the third quarter. Trey Ford just clearly was having an awful game, and they're at some point it's just pull your quarterback. You're not showing it tonight. We're going to give the other guy the reps and see what happens. See that in baseball all the time, right? You're starting pitchers, he doesn't have it, you pull him, right? But then, so they didn't pull him in this game where they're getting beat up pretty bad. But the game against Ottawa the week before, Trey Ford's lighting it up, actually having a really good game passing the ball.
Yeah.
And then they ruined that momentum by bringing in Cody Fajardo. Like, it didn't make sense. So I do wonder what Mark Killam and Jordan Maximic were doing there, because they have some solid receivers. They have a good running game as well too. They're just not doing it. And I think Trey Ford still needs to just sit and observe a little bit. And Cody Fajardo isn't the long-term answer there. He's an adequate backup in the CFL now at this stage of his career. But I think he's got to get a start or two now, because Trey Ford's it's not happening right now.
Yeah, that game against Ottawa, when they had Fajardo come in, I thought there must be some kind of injury or something to Ford, maybe momentarily. That's the only explanation I can come up with. I meant to ask Catherine and Scout about that from the Alex herd, but totally forgot. But yeah, that was my first impression, was something's got to be wrong with Ford, and because he was back in a few plays later.
Yeah, I don't get it. The last time I saw something like that I, really remember kind of questioning was with the Riders back in, when they had Steven Giles and Darian Durant. And I think that was the beginning of 2009. So it's you need 2 quarterbacks in the CFL, but you can't play 2 quarterbacks in the CFL. Like, it just doesn't work that way. So to have a 2 QB system, it's just, the guys need to know they have one guy that they're going to lean on. That's our quarterback. And it doesn't matter who it is for that game. The coaches have to say, this is our guy. This is the guy who's going to get it done for us. And if one guy's not doing it, put the other guy in. That's our guy for the rest of the game.
Yeah. So looking in the East, do you think that Toronto's going to totally turn things around when Kelly comes back?
I don't think they'll completely turn it around. They'll be significantly better, but their defense is just, they lost so many good defensive pieces in free agency. And when you win a championship, everybody wants a part of it, right? So I think they just lost too much on defense. And that's their big problem. I think their offense will be better, obviously, with Kelly, but not enough to, get back in the hunt for first place.
All right, man. As always, good talking to some Rider fans, especially after a Rider loss.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but
I'll put your links to all your socials in the description, but tell everyone where we can find you.
Anywhere on social media. We're even on TikTok now. Us old guys are starting to figure out TikTok. But you look up Piffles Podcast, we'll be there. So YouTube, anywhere you get your podcasts, we're there. You'll find us very easily.
But are you on Blue Sky yet?
We are, yes.
Oh, you are?
Yeah. I think we have a Threads account too, but we haven't used Threads in a couple of years. So.
Right. And TikTok notes, and there's so many now.
Yeah. We just started TikTok though. Like we've had an account for a while, and figured we probably should actually start something on there. So I feel pretty famous that I had 1,000 views on a TikTok post.
Nice. TikTok tends to do that. As soon as you're new, they give you 1 million views, and then your next videos, you're like, what the hell? Where did everybody go?
Yeah.
All right, Alex, good chatting with you, and we'll talk to you down the road after the next Rider game.
Sounds great. Thanks,
after
Jason.
The next Rider Stampeders game.
Yes.
Excellent. Thanks a lot, man.
No problem.
That does it for me here at Stampeders Roundup. Big thanks to Alex Dormuth for dropping in to chat about this week's game. Go check out all the great CFL shows on the Shotgun Sports Network, including Argos Fancast, Rouge, White, and Blue, and the Elks Call. For myself and my friends at the Shotgun Sports Network, thanks for tuning in.